All right, we have a special treat today. We are bringing back an old friend who's been out globetrotting around the country and around the world, and he's come back again to share his wisdom. Timber Hawkeye.
Not exactly trotting right now. Thank you. I know. A few of you have seen and heard me speak before, and you know that I never have any idea what's going to come out of my mouth until it does, and today's no exception. I showed up. Oh, I can move.
You're good.
And the first word of the day was wonder when Christine did the reading for the day. And I remember I woke up this morning and I wondered, I was like, when am I gonna heal? I broke my foot in a couple of different places and I heard it break. The people around me heard it break. And I'm glad I did, because had I not heard it break, I would have not gone to the ER, because I'm a man. And I would have just figured I just sprained it, I'll be fine. But I heard it break, and I saw a few different doctors for it, and they figure that if I just don't do anything, it's going to heal on its own. And that's a whole new level of trust and faith. Because when they suggest surgery, they show you, this is the bone, this is what we're going to do, this is where we're going to put the plate, this is where we're going to put the screw, and you can kind of see logically, rationally, yeah, that makes sense. But because it broke in two different places, the surgery is a little more complicated, so let's just wait. Let's just put you in a boot for a couple of months, don't put any weight on it, and we'll see. And so I'm wondering, and this morning especially, because it still looks like it has not healed in any way, but if I knew the word of the day was perseverance, and I'm here as a walking example of that. Walking, this is before Brian was bragging about walking on the beach this morning. But I really like that we recite the 5 principles, and every Sunday you pick a different one. And the one for today was about the rubber meets the road, but it was about our practice. Most of my training is in Buddhism, and it's to introduce a pause between impulse and response. And when I lead discussion groups and retreats, we often start a discussion circle, and we don't focus too much on meditation, but we always start out with just three minutes of just sitting quietly, and just 3 minutes. And I tell people, in those 3 minutes, I'm not going to tell you to clear your mind or go to some Zen place somewhere, but just don't physically move. For 3 minutes, if you have an itch, don't scratch it. If your foot falls asleep, let it. If you're convinced there's a spider crawling on your head, there isn't, you're fine, just wait 3 minutes. I just, as he said, got back from a tour around Australia where I couldn't say that, because if you're in Australia and there's a spider crawling on your head. But the benefit of that, the benefit of sitting and noticing, oh, there's pain in my back, or I need to scratch, or I need to itch or something, and not doing it. It's not for those 3 minutes. The benefit of it is not those 180 seconds so you can pat yourself on the back. Good job, you didn't react. It's later in the day, like you said, when somebody cuts you off on the road, or when you're doing something, or when you break your foot and you hear it break. And I'm not here to brag, but I am definitely crediting my years of practice and meditation to the fact that I heard my foot break, and I didn't scream, I didn't yell, I didn't cuss. I was just there, and people swarmed next to me. It sounded like someone took a broomstick and just broke it over their knee. Like, are you okay? And I said, no. I'm not okay. And I got up and I hopped on one foot and drove myself to the ER. I'm not bragging. It was crazy. But there was no, what I've been sitting with this month is the mantra, what else? In the sense that, yes, it hurts. Yes, it's broken. Yes, this sucks. Yes, I'm used to hiking and being active, and I had permits 2 days after breaking my foot to backpack the Grand Canyon. I got these permits 3 years ago. But because of COVID, they were pushed from 2020 to 2021, and then 21 to 22, and then 22, finally 23. I've been waiting for it. And I went to the ER, and I'm like, just tell me I can still go to the Grand Canyon. That's all I want to know. But when it broke, it was just like, yes, it's broken, but there's no, yelling's not going to make it any better. I didn't cry, I didn't cuss, interestingly, and I've had a lot of time to do nothing more but think about this. It was really fascinating time to self-reflect on what was that about? Because it sounds heroic that I just got up and hopped away. But when some people offered their help and all that, and my main concern was to get out of people's way. What was that about? And there's a lack of like self-worth, that how dare I be disruptive to other people? Like, imagine driving on the freeway and your car catches on fire, and most people will just slam on the brake, get out of the car. And I was like, oh, better move over, and get myself away so as to not possibly in any way be disruptive to someone else's day. And that's not something I'm proud of, but it was a really interesting thing to look at, to go, how, and I didn't ask someone to drive me to the ER. I was just like, I can do it myself. You know what I mean? Like, it was just this whole, don't be disruptive. It was like, you go on with your day. It was really interesting. And I've been sitting there, and yes, it hurts. And I've written about it in my books, and I've talked about the benefit of zooming out, so to speak. Always, when we tend to look at what's going on in the Middle East, or what's going on in any part of the world you name right now, there's something going on there, and it could be really disruptive. And I always say, zoom out, look at the big picture. And when you look at the big picture, it's a really big, beautiful world. But this month has invited me to actually zoom in some regards and go, yes, this hurts, but what else? What else are you feeling? What else is going on? And the benefit of that, it's not just, because if I focus on the pain, then that's all there is. You know what I mean? And I can get mad and I can get angry, and those are valid. And I can write that down. Yes, I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling, in pain. I'm feeling robbed. But what else are you feeling? Because if all I focus on that, and I picture a pie chart, then the whole pie chart is just filled with all that anger and rage and all that. But when I ask myself, okay, what else? So I don't nullify, deny, or reject those feelings, but I ask myself, what else is going on? And that has been really instrumental in my faith, because I can look at what's going on in the world and go, God is so cruel and God is so this, or I can be like, but what else? And that way it allows room for everything, and to trust that it all has purpose. And where the rubber met the road is where I didn't react, I responded. And that's the beauty. When life throws you a curveball, we tend to react. And that could be not just something as minor as somebody cutting you off on the road, and like, how can you remain calm? But how can you remain calm when you lose your health, your wealth, a loved one? I went through a really terrible heartache a couple of years ago, and I realized you can be madly in love with someone and still be better off without them. And so it's like, but I love you, yes, but that's not all there is. We're not compatible. And so it was just like, yes, that's true, and that's true. What else? And then am I making sense at all about how we expand and we allow all of those things to coexist? And while I love that there are 5 principles, I don't know how beneficial it is, to only visit this one once every 5 weeks. It's a moment by moment practice, because I send out one monthly email, and the one I'm drafting right now that's going to come out in a couple of days is about activism. And where does the rubber meet the road? Because we can talk about Buddhism and Christianity and compassion, but there's a big gap between what Christ taught and what so-called Christians are doing, or what Buddha suggested and what Buddhism calls us to do. And so the invitation is to go, okay, what role do I play, if that makes sense? You know, I love that. What is the fifth one? Say it to me again.
Knowing these principles is not enough. We need to practice them.
Knowing the principles is not enough. We need to practice them. That's just it. Knowing to meditate, knowing to remain calm, knowing to be peaceful, that's not enough. Your beliefs don't make you a better person. Your behavior does. So, like when Maya Angelou said, and anytime someone tells her that they are Christian, she goes, already? She's like, I'm still working on it. And that's the idea. We're constantly working on it. Knowing the principles makes you knowledgeable. It doesn't make you wise. I think wisdom is when you embody it, when you're in it and you're like, okay, how can I? And my friend who saw, you know, when my foot broke, he was like, you were so stoic. And I said, well, what's the alternative? You know, and I thought about what is the alternative? You know, I remained calm, and the alternative would have been, you know, to scream out and yell out and grab and adore the attention that I was getting from everyone, going, you know, how can I help? But that also would have been indicative, because everything we feel is indicative of a need within us that is either being met or not met. And most of us just react and express the feeling. But what we're called to do is get deeper and go, what is the unmet need underneath that? And if somebody needs attention, they're going to do things that call out for attention. And if somebody doesn't, they won't. And anywhere from perseverance to something in the reading, someone said, like I said, I show up not knowing at all. Talk about not being prepared. Who was that? I'm prepared in that I know this is not unique to me. This is not about my broken foot. This is not about the peg leg. This is about each of us constantly being, I don't want to say tested, invited to practice. We're not tested, like you're not going to fail. You know what I mean? If you react, you'll just, someone will cut you off again. You'll get another chance to try to be patient. Don't worry, it's going to happen. And if we see all of those things as invitations, all the heartaches, all the broken bones, all the ailments, all the wars in the world as an invitation, not to try and fix it, but to ask ourselves, who am I in relation to that? You know, how can I respond rather than react? How can I be part of the solution rather than the pollution? Why not, instead of adding to the noise, why don't I just, who was it who said, don't speak unless it improves the silence? That's a tall order. Because silence isn't empty. It holds so many answers for us. And that's why I love about that. Even the moments of silence in the very beginning of service, to me, that's my favorite part. And then you ruin it with song. I'm joking. I'm joking. Half the room wants to, yeah. I can't run away from you. I should have thought about that. There's room for all of it. That's just it. What else? What else? Because the very thing that inspires me, someone else is like, oh God, we've been sitting in silence for so long. When is this going to start? And someone else just, there's room for all of it. That's what I've mostly learned just being bedridden for a month, because I live in a place that I can't leave because it requires walking in an area that I can't walk in. So the gate is, anyway. And it's invited me so much, you know, this whole concept of low self-worth, to then call on people, call on friends and say, I need help. I need groceries and I can't go to the store. I can't drive. I can't, you know, and just that humility and seeing that. I called my friend and she lives far away, and I was crying and I was like, you know, I don't know how to do this. And she goes, well, what if you think of it as giving the friend you're going to ask for help, giving them a gift, giving them an opportunity to help you. And I was like, oh, well, I can think of a few people who can who would appreciate. And all of a sudden it became, how do we make a day of it? How do we make, you know what I mean? Instead of me feeling like a burden, and figuring how do I repay you? It's like, no, we can both make the most of it. So all of that is perseverance. All of that is staying in wonder. Well, what is going to happen 2 weeks from now? When they x-ray it again, and I don't know what they're going to say. They may go, oh, shoot, nothing's changed. Or they may go, oh, you're fine, you can start walking on it. I don't know. I love the excitement. It's like a movie that no one can tell me the ending of. And I'm supposed to speak at a retreat in South Dakota at the end of next month. And I'm not only not looking forward to it because it's South Dakota, but I don't want to imagine trying to do this through an airport. And so I also don't want to disappoint anyone who's been, waiting for this retreat for so long. But it's not about me. And that's that letting go, when to hold on and when to fold, right? So going back to where I started, I made a list of like, what do I know? Not what do I feel, because feelings are not facts. Right? So I can't be like, well, I feel like I'm disabled and I feel like I'm worthless and I feel like, yeah. That's the ego telling you all of these things, and none of them are true. What do you know to be true? And you've heard me say this before, the only thing I know for certain is that I don't know anything for certain. So I'm already immediately going into it with a grain of salt. But I can't even say I know this is temporary because I don't know. But I'm eager to find out. I wonder. I'd like to think that my comeback is going to be stronger than my setback. That's been a mantra for me. And when I feel pain, again, I want to leave you with this mantra. What else? So when you feel overwhelmed with whatever feeling you're feeling, it could be a positive feeling, it could be madly in love, and forget everything else that's going on in your life. And that's why it's like, yes, I'm in love, but what else? What else is true? What else? What else? Because all of a sudden that pie chart isn't overwhelmed by anger or pain or joy or anything. There's room for everything. There's room for everyone. And I think that's what makes this life and world and the uncertainty of one moment you're on top of the world and next you're on the ground and you're not okay. But I am okay. I realize now that I lied that day when they're like, are you okay? And I said, no, I'm okay. My foot's not okay, but I'm okay. Does that distinction make sense? I've talked about this before, but I don't know if I did it here and this just came to me. It is very important, and I think you talk about this a lot, what follows the term I am. If I say I am angry, I am now identifying who I am with a temporary feeling. I am, broken, heartbroken, whatever. Then I identify with a temporary feeling and it becomes part of who I am and it becomes the lens through which I see the world. And so I see the world and I see anger and frustration, whatever it is. But if I'm honest and I say, I'm feeling anger right now, it honors the feeling and it honors the fact that it's temporary. It's more honest. Does that make sense? So that is the practice, is to catch yourself when you are quick to identify with a temporary feeling or a temporary situation, to catch yourself when you're zoomed out too much and when you zoom in too much. It's truly about the middle ground. I remember a Zen student asked the teacher a question and the teacher answered it one day one way, and the next day the student went back and the teacher answered it the exact opposite way, and the student just figured he doesn't know what he's talking about. Yesterday he told me to go right, today he's telling me to go left. And the teacher goes, well, yesterday you were about to hit the mountain, so I told you to go left. Now you're about to fall off the road, so I'm telling you to go right. I'm trying to help you find that middle ground, that middle path. So it's not about either letting go or holding on. Sometimes we just got to loosen the grip. There is that middle ground. It's not one or the other. Just ease up. I've had to. And if that's what it took for me to learn that, to learn the beauty of gray, my whole spiritual journey has been away from the rigid towards the gentle. And I realized the other day that meant away from black and white and just towards the gray. Nothing is all bad. Nothing is all good. I'm inclined to say it's neither good nor bad. It just is. It's happening. It's just a foot. It's just a break. It'll heal. I'm learning how to play rummy. It's all I can do. And this is my first real outing, because we booked this before, and I didn't know, but this was close enough, and I was like, I'll make it work. And I did, and I'm grateful someone gave me a ride because I can't drive, so thank you for that. Thank you guys for allowing me to be. I don't need to be perfect. I don't need to sit here cross-legged and project this image of, whatever you is projected onto me. I'm just me, and if I can remain calm with a broken foot and hop off and go, to me, it doesn't speak highly of me. It speaks highly of the practice. It speaks highly of meditation, that it works. That after all these years of reeling back the reaction and just taking that pause, it works. It doesn't work immediately, but the rate of return is not instant. But I think it's everlasting, in the sense that this practice is going to be with me for the rest of my life. No matter what I'm faced with, the death of a loved one, another heartache, I'd be like, I got this. My track record's 100%. This same foot has already been reconstructed once. Yeah, on the other side. Now it's the other side. And last time I was in a wheelchair for 3 months and all this stuff. And so this brought up so much of that old fear of what if. It's like, well, what if not? What if it does heal in a couple weeks? I don't know. Stay tuned. And that's the mantra, stay tuned. Not to me, to your own life, to what's happening, to what's what's about to unfold. Live in that wonder, because it can all change in a second for the greater, or just a plot twist. That's what I always yell out when things change. I go, oh, plot twist. And it's not inspiring. It's not positivity. It's not things will get better. No, things will be different. That's all they're going to be. Different. What is old age going to look like? Well, you won't know until you get there. Stay tuned. Thank you, guys. Thank you.